Welcome into a brand new episode of the Sports Hub Patriots Podcast. Alex Barth with you from 98.5 The Sports Hub, 98.5thesportshub.com, getting ready to look at the Patriots-Jets Week 8 matchup and kind of just to look back at another wild week that was with the 2024 Patriots. And joining us to help out, Phil Perry from NBC Sports Boston. Phil, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Alex. There are things to talk about when it comes to this team. Never a shortage of those. So happy to be with you.
Yeah, no, there is not. And I guess just looking back at the week that really started, a week ago on Sunday, Gerard Mayo calls the team soft. He's since kind of gone back and forth on those comments. You have receivers talking about maybe not wanting to play here, not getting the ball enough, things like that. And it all comes to crescendo Sunday, right, against the Jets. And my big talking point for this team this year has been, yeah, they're probably not going to make the playoffs or anything, but can they show some sign of progress between week 1 and week 18? And this feels like an inflection point of you already played this team once, you got beat badly, you had a rough week. Can you show you can overcome it? What are you looking to see from the Patriots this week? And that's a pretty broad question. Like, interpret that as you wish. What do you need to see from the Patriots this week to feel better about the team, not just in the short term, but in the long term moving forwards?
Yeah, I think you want to see a motivated group. And that's what I sensed, honestly, Alex, this week in the locker room. I don't know about you, but in the conversations that I had with players, I sensed a ticked off team, and that can go one of two ways, right? Like you can use it in a positive manner. You can use it the way that I felt. The offensive linemen were trying to use it this week during practice. Defensive players that play in the front seven, those guys felt personally challenged by those comments from Gerard Mayo. And so if you use that to play better and maximize the schemes that you're given by your coaching staff, because I'm not sure there's a whole lot of schematic answers to what ails them right now. So if you can use that to push you to higher heights, then we'll all be here on Monday after the game. Win or lose, if they look like a more motivated team, if they can run the football, if they can stop the run, all these things that Mayo criticized them for, which I would say rightfully so after that Jaguars game, if they can do those things more effectively, more efficiently against the Jets, then we'll say, okay, maybe those words landed. And so maybe that was the right button to push at this point in time. If you get a team that just has completely tanked and, they're down 24-0 at half and they just have no life, then I don't know where you go from here. Cause that is, that's one of the last levers you can pull as a head coach is to call your team out in the way that Mayo did. And so I think if you're a Patriots fan, in order to have hope, not only for the rest of the season, but also moving forward as Mayo and Elliott Wolf are trying to figure out which players are going to be a part of this group moving forward, which guys respond to this adversity, which guys handle this moment in the appropriate way, in the way that you want them to handle it. That could even have some roster building impact this offseason. So that's what you're hoping to see if you're a Patriots fan. I do think, even though I don't think they'll win this game, I do think there is the chance that we come away from this game, as bad as the Jets have been this year, saying, right, at least it looked better, and you go from there.
Right. At least they responded. And I look at a guy like Kendrick Bourne who spoke today, and I don't know if you were in on that scrum earlier, if you heard it, but I thought he did a tremendous job of walking the line between, he said what needed to be said, right? Like, guys aren't focused enough. He called out like the young guys specifically, saying, we need to behave more like pros. If we keep doing the bare minimum, we're not going to get to playoffs. We're not going to get to Super Bowls. And that seemed like a guy that really responded to the message, but a guy that has been kind of a core leader for this team the last few years. So he's a guy you expect to respond. And now I think it's more, how do players respond to him? So as we look at players responding to that message, do you think it's more just responding to what Mayo said, or is it up to the leadership to kind of take that to a player leadership to take that to a more player by player level?
Well, I do think it's important that the players do that, because what a coach says to a team only goes so far, and it does matter. And I think the coaches do sort of set the bar for their team in a number of different ways, and you need those lieutenants to be able to carry that message out. I think there's a real void there when it comes to those lieutenants. And some of that is because of injury. David Andrews and Juwan Bentley, probably the two strongest voices in that locker room. And those guys are hurt. And I know, based on some of the comments that Kendrick Bourne made to Mark Daniels of Mass Live, after he had that larger media scrum, it sounds like Bentley was the one who kind of took charge in the meeting room today, which I think speaks volumes, getting to the front of the room and telling guys, we need to do more. You got to do everything the right way if we're going to make anything of this season, essentially, is what it sounded like he said. Get the treatment if you need to get treatment. Make sure you're getting your rest. Make sure you're eating the right things, which is a mind-boggling message that needs to be sent, Alex, when you're headed into week 8 of the season after a month of training camp and all the spring. Like, you should have a pretty good idea of what it means to be a professional well before this point. And the fact that they needed that reminder is a sign of the times. But I think they need that reminder because they're lacking leadership in that room. And, God bless Jonathan Jones, who I think is as tough as they come and one of the best professionals that they have in that room. God bless Kendrick Bourne and his positivity and his optimism and his smile and his, putting a silver lining on things at times while also trying to tell the truth when it comes to what younger players need. I'm not sure they have the number of people necessary to be able to make sure that the message is being delivered consistently on a day-to-day basis. I think that's pretty clear, especially in that receiver room. I think what's going on there is a little bit of a microcosm of what the entire team is dealing with, where you don't really have an alpha personality who can kind of show those younger guys what needs to be done and when, or who can strike fear into those guys and tell them what has to happen and how they need to make themselves better players so that they can make the team a better team. You got guys that don't want to be there, and KJ Osborne, in my opinion. You have players who think that they deserve more than what they're getting right now. And Kendrick Bourne, you have guys that just aren't reliable, and Tyquan Thornton and Javon Baker. Throw Jalen Polk into that mix as well. He's dealing with a concussion now, but dependability, catching the football, like that stuff is lacking. So that receiver room to me is a good place to start when you're looking at what really ails this team as a whole right now.
So speaking of the wide receiver room, right, so you're going to have Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas top of the depth chart, Kayshon Boutte will factor in there as well. But Jalen Polk's been that fourth guy. He's going to be out. They have to give somebody a shot this week. And do you think that's Javon Baker getting his first look since early in the season? Maybe like he's improved. Is it KJ Osborne as the reliable veteran, as disgruntled as he may be? Do we finally see Tyquan Thornton again? Like who do they turn to in your mind there? Because they have to pick one of them, right?
They need one. I think it's to be KJ Osborne, Alex. And it sounds strange given that he was sort of on the back of a milk carton, healthy scratch or in uniform and didn't even play a couple weeks ago against the Texans. I found Alex Van Pelt's comments to us today very interesting because he was asked basically towards the end of his back and forth with reporters, who's the guy that can lead that room, that receiver room, and who's the guy that others can look to. And he mentioned without hesitating, KJ Osborne. Again, this is less than 24 hours after KJ Osborne made it pretty clear he wouldn't mind being traded. He just wants to be where his feet are. And he's happy to be wherever his feet are. And that spoke volumes to me. And to me, it was an indication of, the coaching staff knows they might actually need this guy. And so they're trying to let him know, no, you're important to us. We want you here. We want you to want to be here, because they know in the back of their minds, because of all the situations that are happening in that receiver room right now, that he might be their third best option this week. If it was me in a vacuum on paper, would I be trying to get Javon Baker out there? Yes. Is he deserving of that based on some of his work habits, let's say, off the field and how he's handled himself off the field of late? I'm not sure. I think it's, between Bourne's comments and Alex Van Pelt, when I asked him about if receivers are doing all the right things to be able to get themselves ready to go, I don't think you have to draw, too crooked a line to look at Baker and, wonder if he's doing all the right things. And so I'm not sure they're going to be ready to trust him with a real role this coming week. And maybe they will. Maybe they're more eager to forgive because they need that much help on offense. But I'm not sure he's quite ready.
The other part about that, I wonder, I almost kind of default to Osborne too. I'm with you. I'd play Javon Baker. Used a 4th round pick on the guy. You got to try him again at some point. Clearly he wasn't ready at the beginning of the year, needed to sit, but how much of it is doing what's right for Drake Maye? The one thing that's going right for this team right now is his development. It's going very right. through 2 games, small sample size, but still. And, Baker may have some more upside, but I almost feel like with the young quarterback, you want the reliable players. Reliable is not exactly the best word for this wide receiver room right now, but if I had to pick one of those 3, Baker, Thornton, Osborne is like a reliable, you kind of know what you're getting sort of option. Osborne's clearly the guy.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think, Van Pelt has in some ways told us how much reliability matters to him by the amount of snaps that he gives to Austin Hooper.
Yeah.
in situations where 90% of the league's offensive coordinators would not be using 2 tight ends, the Patriots are rolling out 2 tight ends. We're talking like 3rd and 8, and you got 12 personnel on the field. Like, and one of your tight ends is not, Kyle Pitts or a tight end of that ilk. It's, 2 guys who can catch the football, but are just, they're relatively sure-handed and they know where to be. And that it matters so much to Van Pelt that I think that's what would lead him to err on the side of somebody like Osborne when making this decision. And don't forget, I mean, he was very clear with us. It was just a couple weeks ago talking about how, Baker still needs to figure out, where to line up and what his assignments are essentially offensively. He's been in the system for a while. I think there's a chance they wanted him to play in that London game, and maybe he ended up being the late scratch that led to KJ Osborne seeing time in that game. So maybe they're close to getting him on the field. I just think with reliability looking like it's a really important factor for Van Pelt, he might lean towards Osborne as well.
What are you looking for from Drake Maye in his 3rd career start?
All he's got to do, Alex, is carry them to victory. That's all.
No big deal.
It's just carry them to victory and save their season. That's all he's got to do. Listen, if they win this game, I think it's going to be because of Drake Maye. It's not going to be because of their run defense. I'm not sure what they do there to make sure they get that thing figured out. I don't think it's going to be because of their special teams or their running game. I think it's going to be because of the kid, and he's that talented. To me, I've been so impressed by his poise on the field. I've also just been impressed by his demeanor off the field at the podium. Even small comments like talking to Mike Owenu and telling him, hey, that sack at the end of the game, that was my bad. That's not on you. Like that kind of accountability, showing that already at this age. And that sounds like a cheesy thing to put weight into, but I do. And I think for a team that's looking for culture setters, I think he's already shown signs that he is one. And so I would be looking for more of the same. I think he was improved when it came to how he handled pressure in that game the other day, as opposed to the Texans game. I thought some of the spray misses he still had them, but he sort of cut back on them, and he didn't have any that led to turnovers, although a couple probably should have. So that's what I'm looking for. Try to keep manageable the quality of the miss. Don't have a 10-yard throw over Pop Douglas's head where he doesn't even go for it and it lands in the arms of a safety. Give your guys a chance along the sideline, but make some plays with your legs. I'm still surprised. I don't know about you, Alex. I'm still surprised they haven't done much, if any, of the designed quarterback run game with him. I think that's an untapped source of yardage that Alex Van Pelt could dip into this weekend. But man, 70% completions, no turnovers last week, more of the same. And I think they'll at least be in this game.
Yeah, that's one of my big ones, the design runs. I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen that yet, especially with the run game struggling. One more here before we let you go, Phil, because I know you're sort of up against it. You hinted at the defense. This is a team that got spanked by Aaron Rodgers 4 or 5 weeks ago, a team that can't stop the run up against a unit led by Braylon Allen and Breece Hall. Like, what is, conventional wisdom? You take one thing away and make them beat you with the other, right? Take away the right, make them beat you with the left. Can the Patriots take anything the Jets do away? And what is the one thing, if you're going to allocate resources towards that you look to stop?
I think you have to allocate your resources towards stopping the run, if only to make a statement, right? Like,
sure,
just sell out and stop the run. And if they beat you with Devontae Adams or Garrett Wilson down the field, then you're probably willing to live with that. But you got to prevent against the soul-sucking drives that they endured last week against Jacksonville. 17 consecutive runs. It's a joke. And it's the kind of thing that can really, I think, impact your psyche as a football team. No matter whether your coach says you're soft or not, like, it as it's happening. Oh my God, these guys won't stop running the football, and there's nothing we can do about it. Like, there is nothing more energy sapping than that from defensive players that I've talked to over the years, whether it's Rob Ninkovich or a number of others who have, basically said as much. Like that is as hopeless as you could ever feel on a football field. And so they have to do something to prevent against that. What they do, Alex, I have no idea, because I just think they're too small. I think they're small in the middle of their defense right now. They have Devon Godshaw, and I think he's by and large played well. Outside of that, you're asking Daniel Aquale to stuff the run, and I don't think that's really his game. You're asking Christian Ellis and Raekwon McMillan, to be impact off the ball linebackers for you. And at times, taking on guards and shedding and all the fundamentals that they preach there, that they have preached for a long time, because for a long time they were two gapping defense and they had these, just monster middle linebackers that weigh 250 pounds that the rest of the league is basically, shunned for the last 15 years because they're not fast enough. The Patriots say, no, we'll take those guys. Give us those guys, because the way we want to play is downhill, hit you in the face, blow you back into the hole that your running back is trying to run through, and we'll make the stop from there. It's really hard to ask guys like Ellis and McMillan, I think, to play the same way. They can't. So you either have to change philosophically what you're doing up front, which I think is probably really hard to do in week 8, or you have to send bodies at the problem to the extreme, meaning do we just see some early down plays where it looks like they're almost playing cover 0, right? And they just have so many bodies in the box that they'll be able to plug it up one way or the other, and you're just trusting Christian Gonzalez on the outside against Garrett Wilson or Devontae Adams with no safety help. Like, that's a dangerous way to live, and I would be a little surprised if they did that early in this game. But if you can't stop the run, you have to do something along those lines, because I just don't think they have the personnel to be able to live up to the fundamental standards that they have tried to hold this defense to for a number of years.
He is Phil Perry from NBC Sports Boston. You can check him out there on Twitter at Phil A. Perry. Phil, thanks so much for joining us today.
Alex, always fun talking to you, buddy. Hopefully we will see some high-quality football on Sunday, my friend.
Hopefully. I'll see you there.